Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're out the range with a special rifle. I think this rifle may have made a cameo appearance in a video a couple of years ago when I was out at the long range. I took it out to shoot it. I don't shoot this rifle very often. It's very rare in the United States and it's very expensive. I've had it for quite some time. This is the H&K SL7. This is a hunting rifle, from what I understand, that's pretty popular in Europe and would be used for hunting in Europe. That was imported for a while into the United States. They imported both the SL6, which would have been the 5.56-223 version, and the SL7. I only have an SL7. It's a beautifully made rifle, as you can see. Internally, how it works is identical to a G3. It uses a G3 bolt locking piece and everything. But aside from that, they've completely redesigned the gun around being used with a wooden stock. They originally shipped, I believe, with a flush-mounted magazine. When I bought this one, it had this extended magazine, or the Extendo magazine, as we call it here in the United States. And the weapon has the standard HK type sights. You have your standard HK Doppler sights here on it. So you would have your combat sight, and it's graduated all the way up to 400 meters. In the front, we have the standard HK front post. The selector lever for safe and fire is right here. That's safe, and that is fire. The magazine release itself is located right here in the trigger guard. I'm just going to push it with my thumb and it pops the magazine right out. Don't ask me what these things are worth, guys. I have no idea. I've had this thing for so long, I don't know. One of these days I would love to get my hands on an SL6, but I can only imagine what those things cost. It's probably going to be ridiculously expensive. But anyway, this gun will also use a standard HK sling. You'll notice the clip mount back here, standard G3 style slings, which would clip on here. And then in the front, you have the hook mount as well. So if you want to put a strap sling on it using a G3 sling, it will work on your SL7. We're going to shoot it today. We're going to show you how the rifle shoots, just do a little bit of playing around with it. And then we're going to put a scope on it and we'll explain to you how that's done using these two holes right here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. I'm really enjoying having this rifle out. I haven't had it out in quite some time. And again, I just enjoy bringing you guys along to the range with us to play with these oddball, unique weapons from the past. Let's do a little bit of shooting with the SL7 using some Freedom Munitions. This is their new stuff. This is 155 grain hollow point boat tail. And it should be a match type round. We should see fairly decent accuracy out of this thing. I also think it's worth pointing out that you'll notice that these cases are fluted just like a standard HK91. I can't emphasize enough, guys, this gun really is a wooden stocked HK91. The quality's there. This thing is actually probably better built than your average HK91 in the fact that a lot of parts are machined that would otherwise be stamped. And the gun is just absolute pleasure to shoot, aside from the recoil. In 308, this gun probably kicks as bad, dare I say it kicks worse than some of the lightweight bolt action deer rifles I've shot in my life. So the magazine I have here holds 10 rounds. We have 10 rounds of the Freedom Munitions loaded up. I'm going to go ahead and I have the bolt locked to the rear. Now it's interesting to note, guys, that when this gun runs dry, it does not lock open, just like an HK91. However, if you grab this big charging handle and pull it sharply to the rear and to the stop till it stops its travel, it will lock itself open. But during firing, it does not do that. All right. So last shot fired, bolt goes closed, just like an HK91 or a 93. Loading the magazine, just insert it to the magazine well, clips in. Remember, guys, the selector switch is right here. It's set to fire to charge the weapon. Since I have the bolt locked to the rear, all I have to do is push this lever with my index finger, and the gun's loaded and ready to fire. Now, I got a little man-sized target at a little over, let's see, if that's 100, that's about 200 yards out. And I have the 200-yard aperture on here set. So let's see if I can actually hit this guy. I don't know how zeroed this gun is to this ammo. So I'm just kind of Hail Marying it a little bit. All right, let's see if I can hit it. And that sounded like a hit. Sound like a hit? Yeah, Jason says it sounded like a hit. can hear the ringing now. So I'm pretty much dead holding. Now, something else that's really, really interesting about this rifle, it has a match grade trigger in it, guys. I'm gonna have to measure it, but the trigger is incredibly light. Unlike an HK91, nothing like it. The German military has very strict drop requirements for their military rifles, which contributes to the HK's really, really heavy trigger in the G3 form. This rifle isn't subject to that because it's a sporting or hunting rifle, and the trigger in this thing, guys, is top notch. You can see that muzzle rise on this thing. The recoil is there. It's got a metal butt pad, and yeah, it looks like my sights are just a little bit off the right. I can start to see the marks in the paint. Now keep in mind, this rear sight, guys, is an HK drummed diopter sight, so you will need HK tools to make adjustments to it. At least it's connecting every shot. That was it. So you'll notice it didn't lock open. To lock the gun open, I'm going to go ahead and pull the bolt sharply to the rear. And now I'm going to put it on safe, drop the magazine out, and let's run down range and take a look at the 200-yard target, see what I did with the open sights. Well, guys, I can't complain about this. This is 10 shots at a steel target at 200 yards using iron sights. It's a really low light day using sunglasses, but there's a group about the size of my hand, all 10 shots. Right there. I would say the group's slightly right of center, but yeah, I mean, I shoot different types of ammo. That's the first time I've ever fired the Freedom Munitions 155 grain stuff out of it, but it's shooting pretty much to point of aim. I think last time I shot it, I was using some Federal Gold Medal, and this stuff's shooting almost the same point of aim. What a cool gun. I know it's really popular to use those types of firearms in Europe for hunting. I could only imagine going pig hunting with that thing down south. I mean, every gun I shoot, I think I want to go hunt with it, but that SL7's such a beauty. The only problem is it's so collectible and so valuable. I really don't want to beat it up by dragging it around through the woods. Taking apart the SL7 is a pain in the rear end. Okay, there's just no way getting around it. First of all, if you have a rifle you've picked up used and you don't have an owner's manual, you'll probably never figure this out. I don't think there's a YouTube video out there that shows you how to take apart an SL6 or SL7. So let's show you guys how to do this. First of all, I'm gonna drop the magazine out. Magazine releases right here in the trigger guard. That drops it out. Now with all the SL6s and SL7s, the 5.56 and the 308, if you pull the charging handle out and sharply to the rear, it will lock the bolt to the rear until you press this button right here. Okay? So I'm going to relieve the spring pressure. I'm going to go ahead and let that bolt stay home at the forward position. In the rear, you have a screw. And what you want to do is unscrew this, and it's going to take a lot of turning, and it's going to offer quite a bit of resistance. But don't worry, you're not hurting the gun in doing this. It's also good to note that you should have the gun on the fire position and the hammer cocked. All right. So as I'm doing this, you're going to notice something's happening, and I'll show it to you here in just a second. As I'm turning this screw, see this gap appearing here? I'm pulling this top cover rearward with the screw until I can get it to such a point that I can pop that top cover off. It's a very, very strange design, but on the inside, it's pretty much an HK91. Okay, so I can feel that tension releasing now. All right, so I've gotten that screw loose enough because I feel that tension releasing, that I can pull the top cover up. See, I pulled that rear end up, pull it slightly to the rear, and then it'll just lift right off. And that's your top cover with your rear sight. All right, so now here's that screw we were loosening. Take the recoil spring out, and then you have two little pieces right here. You have a metal piece that comes out, and then there's a little hard plastic buffer piece. Okay, you're gonna want to take those out. Now, this is the tricky part. You want to turn this so the screw is all the way back in, because we're not going to be able to get the bolt carrier out with its firing pin extended. We're going to have to compress that firing pin spring to get this out. Now, maybe on a more used gun, this thing, as you can tell, is practically unfired. This would be easier, but on this really, really new-ish gun, getting the bolt carrier out of the receiver is very challenging. So see that I'm screwing that takedown screw all the way in, and what that's going to do is put the face of that screw where it's flush right here. And now I can pull the bolt back, and that will compress the firing pin spring, and I can take the bolt carrier and bolt out of the gun. So now I'm going to pull the bolt to the rear using the charging handle. All right, now you can see where that firing pin spring is, right? This is where it gets interesting, guys, and I'm going to have to use an extra tool. I usually use a flathead. You're going to be very careful because it's easy to scratch or hurt this rifle, and they're extremely rare and expensive in the United States. So the goal is to push it back, and in theory it would just pop right out. As soon as you pull it back, you should be able to pull it up. Well, the front comes up nicely, typically. See how that front wants to come up? But the rear takes a little bit of coaxing, so what I usually do is put a flat head under it and just twist it just a little bit and wiggle it around, and it'll eventually pop out. Okay, so now you have the gun disassembled. I would love to show you guys how to take an HK91 bolt head apart, but I'm not going to subject myself to that today. It's easily done if you're used to the HK. I mean, this, guys, literally is an HK91 G3 whatever bolt locking piece. Everything inside here, including the firing pin and spring, is straight up out of an HK91, and the disassembly method is identical. It's interesting to note that the locking piece right here is marked both 308 and 30-06. So I thought that's kind of weird that it'd be 30-06. I can't recall seeing anything like this in 30-06. All right, to put it all back together again, you just reverse the process. Leave that screw turned in because we're going to want to compress that firing pin spring. Make sure you do not collapse this bolt, guys. If you collapse this bolt and extend those lockers, now it's a two-person job, at least in my case, to get this thing extended. You can do it by yourself, but you're going to cuss and you're probably going to bleed a little bit. So there's two little troughs cut right here, and that's what we're going to set this bolt down into. Little cuts right there and there. All right, but I also have to compress the firing pin spring right there. I'm gonna have to compress that firing pin spring, start it down, and then push down, make sure my rollers are in, and then pop. It'll snap right into place, okay? Now I can release my bolt and let it go home, let it go forward. And you're gonna want it in the home position to put everything back together. Now I'm gonna take this little plastic part, and it's U-shaped so it contours the receiver. I'm going to set it inside there. You take this metal piece which has a little flange on it that'll hold it all in place. You just set that down inside there, and the little flanges hold it in place there. Now we have to go and loosen this screw, and this is just a guessing game. It just takes a little bit of messing around, but you got to get it to about the right spot, same spot, to where it released in the beginning. So now I'm going to take the front part with my bolt all the way home. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to put my recoil spring in there too. I'll make sure that's all the way home. Put my recoil spring in there. And now I'm going to try to slide my top cover down. I'm just going to go on right about here, slide it forward, and now I'm going to try to get it where it sets down. I got it perfect that time. See how it sets flush with the screw? If you don't have it right, it'll set up a little high like that, and you'll have to turn that screw out until it sets flush just like that. Now, you'll notice the gap is here, but I'm going to start to screw that down until it stops. And there's quite a few revolutions involved in doing this, guys. Now again, this is the same procedure for both the SL6 and 223556 and the SL8. No other disassembly is required. I'm going to keep turning this. You notice that gap in the front there is closing up on me. See, it just keeps inching forward. And then finally, it'll come to a rest. I'm just going to snug it when it does. Okay. And it's going to give it a good turn, and it's snug. Now I'm going to just double check and make sure the rest of my screws are tight. All right. That one's a little bit loose. Okay, so now the rifle's back together again. I can pull the bolt to the rear, lock it, release it with this little tab right here, and the gun is ready to fire. That's a lot of fun. Another nice feature of the SL7 is the fact that you can mount a scope to it, which would be handy if you plan on using the rifle for hunting. The downside, it uses a proprietary method of mounting a scope. What I have here in my hands is a product from Nikon. This is a P308 scope, and this scope has an adjustable magnification from 4 power all the way up to 12 power. It has a BDC in the reticle, and it's called the Precision AR Optic P308. So the reticle's designed to use with a 308. Now this is what's interesting about the mounting system. I have this scope mounted to a scope mount that is meant for the SL7. No, don't ask me where I got this mount. I got this years ago. It's not an original HK accessory. I somehow found it. But these little lips pop down into these open squares here on the top of the receiver. And then you kind of wiggle them around and turn these knobs until they set down where it's flush. And now I'm going to thumb tighten these screws, which will tighten the scope mount to the gun. Again, it's proprietary, guys, and honestly, I don't know how well it works. And the fact that you have to thumb tighten them and you can't really put a wrench to them tells me that it may have some movement in there. Okay, so now I have it all locked down. Now it looks like the rear sight might be touching the scope. I don't think it is, but I'm going to turn it to its combat setting here. And that gives me all the clearance I need. So nothing should be touching that scope now. Now I haven't sighted this in on the rifle yet, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn the magnification down to about 8 power. And let's see what happens here. See if we can hit the that 50-yard guy. Let's just make sure that we're somewhat on target before I start slinging lead further down range. I have half boxes, full boxes. This is only 5 rounds. Again, this is the 155 grain boat tail hollow point Freedom Munitions match ammo. Freedom Munitions does donate ammo to this channel. That's how we stay up and running and able to shoot 3 days a week without their assistance. Our highest reoccurring cost, guys, is the fact that we have to feed all these guns that we bring to you every week. All right. What's kind of cool, though, if you become one of our patron subscribers, we give away $200 worth of free ammo, $100 to 2 different people every month. We don't. Freedom Munitions does, as a thank you to our Patreons. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and chamber around. I'm going to take a look through the scope here, make sure I got my ocular lens set up for my eye. Make sure it's nice and sharp. I'm going to dial it back just a bit more. I'm going to take a test shot on that 50-yard steel target. Put the weapon on fire, and it has that hair trigger. Let's see what we can do here. All right, so it looks like it's definitely on steel, but it's just a little bit low and a little bit left. I'm going to make the weapon safe I don't know how far up I want to come on a 50-yard target. Let's leave that alone. Let's try coming a little bit to the right. Let's see if we can get this thing zeroed out here. All right, let's try one more shot. That landed right on top of the last one. So my right turns really didn't do a whole lot of anything. Let's try coming to the right some more. Now I want to make sure this mounts tight too, guys. This is a really, really goofy mounting system. It just does not inspire confidence for repeatable zero. All right, send one more. Fire. There we go. All right, so left to right looks good. At 50 yards, we look like we're pretty spot on. So let me go out to that 200-yard target and see if we can connect with it. Okay, so that hit just a little bit low and left again. That one landed right on top of the other one. And I'm out of ammo. All right, so just a little bit left. I'm gonna give myself a few more clicks to right. I'm gonna try that one more time. That's a lot of fun. I get a kick out of shooting this gun, guys. Oh, the sunlight's horrible. I'm sorry, guys. The video gets brighter and darker. We can't really ever get a good day where we have just straight up good cloud cover, which really makes for the best video. Drop in another 10 rounds here really quick. 2, 4, 5. Let's just do 5. I want Jason to shoot this thing. I really want him to see what this thing feels like. All right, got 10 rounds loaded. Pull it to the rear. Remember, it's locking to the rear. Hit the lever, and I'm going to give it. I think I gave it some more right. Let's see what happens out at 200 now. Looks like it's landing in the same group. I don't remember if I gave it any more right or not. Man, it's printing a really nice group. I'm just going to leave it alone because it's really doing a nice group. All right, that was it. Wow. From what I can see here, it did a nice little group down there. That's pretty darn impressive. So, at least it's on steel. I like it. I like it quite a bit. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed coming out and spending some time on the range with us this afternoon with the H&K SL7. This is definitely a blast from the past. I don't even remember when these things originally were on the market. I'm going to say late 80s, maybe early 90s. I don't know how many were imported. I just know that they're really hard to find. I very rarely see one come up for sale anywhere. And again, I couldn't even give you an idea of what it might be worth. Jason and I were just trying to figure out something fun and unique to do this afternoon. And we said, I don't think we've done a video on the SL7, so that's why we chose it this afternoon. We were shooting the iron sights. Those things were spot on. I probably zeroed them when I got the rifle years ago. But yeah, we were easily able to shoot nice little groups with the 155 grain ammo all the way out to 200 yards with the iron sights. Then we threw the optic on it, and once again, we saw really good performance just with the standard 155 grain boat tail ammo from Freedom. This Nikon, P308. It's not a POF scope, a P308 scope. Has nice target turrets. It's an affordable line of optics. It's meant for the AR-15. Again, it's 4 to 12 power. It has an adjustable ocular lens. You don't have parallax adjustment on the side, but overall it has a nice little BDC reticle in it. Would be a very handy scope for hunting. Who knows whether or not I'll get this rifle out and actually take a deer with it. I say that just about every rifle I shoot. Oh, I'd like to go out and take a deer with it. Anyway, guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms channel, the best way to do that is to support us over on Patreon. Patreon is a way to support the channel directly, not just our channel, but other gun channels, other channels in general that you may consume their content on YouTube. YouTube has demonetized almost all of us. If you're a conservative talk show host, if you talk about firearms, you talk about BB guns, airsoft, archery, knives, anything that's objectionable, we've been demonetized. We get squashed in the search results, and really we make 70% or less of what we once made on YouTube. Patreon allows you to have direct access to us. We give all sorts of stuff back to you guys, including free t-shirts from Forged from Freedom. We do free ammunition from Freedom Munitions to 2 lucky winners every month and 5 lucky winners every month for the Forged from Freedom t-shirts, which will get you t-shirts kind of like this one, the Face of Freedom. This is one of our Mac collection t-shirts from Forged from Freedom. We also do behind the scenes information, and I do answer all private messages and questions that are posted over on Patreon. So it's an easy way for you to have direct access to us, both Jason and I. We read the comments, we respond to everybody, and we just like to say thank you for directly supporting us. That's the best model we think going forward, because we're no longer dependent on YouTube, but I also ask that you support those other content creators as well. Also, guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms channel, you can just swing by and check us out at Copper Custom. I can't say that we have any SL7s for sale, but we also have some pretty cool stuff at some really great prices. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for all those years of support, and we'll see you guys on the range again soon.